I once worked at a startup where my new leader proceeded to send me a manual of her. It was called Manual About Me.
About you, about her.
About her. Mm-hmm. And she asked me to review it prior to our first one-on-one. And I was like, okay. And immediately I thought, oh, this is so fucking cringy. And I thought, no, Jamie, you need to stop. Like,
give it a chance.
Have an open mind.
Yeah.
This is your new leader. And I click on it and I pull it up and it was long, y'all. I mean, it was a manual. It was long. And it listed out basically about her as a leader, how she likes things done, how she likes to set meetings up, how she likes to respond to emails, how and when she'll be available. Very detailed about just like her work in general, but also it got personal. And it told a little bit about like her backstory and like her cat died. And it was a lot. I read it and I thought, Jesus Christ, I didn't want to know all this information. It was just too much for me. And you know what? Truth be told, it was really cringy as fuck. I hated it.
Ashley and I are kind of speechless here. We're just like...
I'm both speechless and I have so many words to come out. But let me ask a question. When you say lengthy, like around multiple pages or?
Yes, I would say it was probably like 5 pages.
What format?
I know. What format is this? PowerPoint, PDF? Or?
Yeah. So if you actually Google, and then this is not an ad, but there is such a thing that you can create this online apparently, because I Googled it because I was like, who the fuck would come up with this?
Where's this template?
There is literally a site, and I guess you get to pick your own questions and then you do the answer. So a lot of them are like how you work or how you want to be worked with and how you want your people to work with you. And which is funny because now I'm thinking back on it and a lot of what she said was completely opposite of how she actually was a leader.
Of course.
Because that was one of my questions was on one hand, we love the transparency.
Yeah.
Depending on what all the information in it was. But how did the first meeting go? Because was it reciprocated or did she send you something where you could fill in those things about yourself?
No, it was not reciprocated. Of course it wasn't, right?
I think the cringiest part of that is calling it a manual. I mean, that's what you use for a power tool, for a machine. Yeah. Like that is so bizarre. Uh-huh. It's so like clinical and sterile and not personal. And I'm not surprised that it was just like an aspirational document as opposed to reality of, how they actually work.
Yeah. They were a heavily micromanager. And it's funny too, like, I don't know. I guess if I ever created a manual of me, which I wouldn't, I would like dress it up with like some GIFs or like some like clip art.
Of course you would.
This was just all black and white, boring,
clip
like
art.
Times New Roman.
Right.
Well, that tells you what you need to know too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that says a lot too,
I can't. But that is the largest part of my problem is 2 things. Is one, people put the information out there. As a leader, are you stopping to think, how will this be received? Is this going to, yes, it'll help people to know how you work, but are you working in a healthy, productive, empowering manner? And also on the flip side, I'm giving this to someone. The natural question is, now tell me about yourself. And when that doesn't happen, says it all.
Exactly. Yeah. Or like have prompts that you ask them to complete, like how do you like to be worked with?
See, the thing is that narcissists lack self-awareness. So that's why they don't ask those questions back and create manuals. Mm-hmm. All self-absorbed. Oh my gosh. They just had a field day creating that. They thought that was so totally innovative.
Oh my God. They were probably like, this is amazing.
Well, it reminds me, like, I don't know why I think of this frequently, but once my parents were visiting, and I don't know where we lived at the point, but wherever we were, there were a ton of roundabouts. And my dad was like, it's like someone went to a conference and they're like, roundabouts. Like, and the new thing is roundabouts. And it's like, you want to ask, but in a way that's not going to show how cringy this is. Like, tell me, where did you hear about this idea? And she'll be like, oh, a TED Talk or like a conference. Like some conference charges $1 gazillion. And they're like, you'll walk away with the number 1 secret to being a leader. And this is it, the manual of me.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I tried so hard not to be a hater, but once I read it, I was like, yeah, see, my gut was correct.
It's cute when you're like a kid does it, like a little kid, like manual of me, me.
Manual of me, right? Oh my God, that's funny. Like that Dr. Seuss book. I don't know. It was yellow. It was like all about me or whatever. Like I remember filling that in when I was like 8.
My kids did it. And I'm curious how many pages, like Jamie, I feel like you and your kids would get through it the whole way. Like we got through about maybe 5 pages with my older daughter. I've got through 3 pages with my younger son. Like I feel like a lot of those books start out really meaningfully, but they don't finish. But obviously your leader's manual of me, all the way finished.
I'm no tech genius, but I knew if I wanted my business to crush it, I needed a website now. Thankfully, Bluehost made it easy. I customized, optimized, and monetized everything exactly how I wanted with AI. In minutes, my site was up. I couldn't believe it. The search engine tools even helped me get more site visitors. Whatever your passion project is, you can set it up with Bluehost. With their 30-day money-back guarantee, what have you got to lose? Head to Bluehost.com to start now. Mochi Health is a long-term weight loss solution personalized to fit your unique needs and goals. Meet one-on-one with board-certified obesity doctors and registered dietitians who are on a mission to listen. Eligible patients can access custom-formulated GLP-1 medications at an affordable, set price and get them delivered to their home each month. No insurance required. FSA and HSA accepted. With 24/7 customer service available, Mochi Health is here to partner with you on your journey to a healthier life. Take the free quiz at joinmochi.com and use code AUDIO40 at checkout for $40 off your first month of membership. That's joinmochi.com.
Oh gosh. Well, that is cringe. But it's a wonderful segue because if I had to guess, that was probably a startup. Anything goes in a startup. And so we're going to be talking about that today. But first, let's do a quick rundown of the agenda. Ashley's going to take it away with some more cringe. We're going to keep this train moving here, the cringe train. She's going to do our cringe corporate speak for us today. And then hot topic, Startups 101. What to expect, key traits of a startup. I mean, you name it. How to be successful in a startup. I dare you to. And then, as always, some questions and comments. How's that sound?
Fantastic.
I know it's a rich agenda today.
Robust.
Robust. Well, Ashley, take it away. What cringe do you have?
I mean, now I want my cringe to be manual of me. So I challenge everyone to do that in a meeting or start thinking about putting that together for your team as a prank. Maybe don't do that. Just do it in your mind. But the real corporate cringe for the week is, and I can't believe we haven't done this, take it offline.
Oh, yes. Let's take it offline.
How did it take us this many episodes to get to this cringe?
Honestly, I can't tell you how many times I've heard that too.
And how do you hear it? Like what's the tone of voice?
In a meeting.
Mm-hmm.
If someone's trying to maybe derail a meeting, it's like, let's take that offline.
Yeah. It means shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's take that offline. Like, you are totally out of control.
With like dagger eyes. Like,
yeah. Is that the same place the parking lot goes to as well?
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
Where things die.
Well, let's put that in the parking lot.
Yeah, I'll take that. Then someone comes back and brings it up later and you're like, I didn't mean that. That's not, I don't want to talk about that online, offline, anywhere. Let's just keep it in your mind only. But do you all ever say this?
I probably have. I'm probably guilty.
No.
But not in a shitty way. More like, that doesn't really pertain to this meeting. Let's just take it offline and we can discuss it on our side. Or maybe even, I feel like I've said it probably when like it really just concerned one person and there's no need to like bring it into this meeting of 10 people. So me and you can meet on that separately and we'll figure, problem solve for that. So yeah, I am probably fucking guilty of it. I'm learning, guys. I'm learning.
I don't think I am. I think I say like, well, we'll just talk about that later. Or that's really not for this. I don't think I say, let's take it offline. Not that I think there's anything wrong with it. I just don't think it's like in my toolbox, my manual. My manual of me.
I'm never a manual. I mean, you think you'd at least go to ChatGPT and be like, what could I call this besides a manual? Because that does sound very like forceful.
Utilitarian? I don't know. It's as...
I wish I still had it so I could send to y'all and publish. I mean, let's be honest, we're not going to publish it, but
Me too. I would love to see that. I'd love to see that. We'll have to do a live reenactment.
y'all literally would die. Like,
Of course we would. We bring a modicum of common sense. And so we would look at this and be like, why would you do that? Have you thought about this? Please.
So cringe. Ooh. Well, let's go ahead and take that one offline, shall we? And maybe already used it. Look at me. I'm like patting myself on the back. Yay, look, I already used it. Whew. But shall we pivot to the hot topic today?
Yes.
Turn startups in and out a little bit. Ooh, startups one-on-one. Has anyone ever worked for one?
a few times.
Yeah, we're all shaking our heads. Yes.
Jamie.
Oh, man. She's a startup queen.
Yeah, I'm a glutton for punishment, y'all.
She's masochistic. That's why.
What would you say, Jamie, if someone were to say, oh, what's it like to work in a startup?
Oh my God. So in almost every startup I have ever worked, this is also a corporate cringe phrase that always gets used. We're building the plane while it's flying.
Oh, yeah.
Because it literally is. Like, you're already running this company or it's doing whatever work it needs to do, but there's no infrastructure. So you're having to come up with things and put things in place. And for an HR piece, it might be putting a people system in place or benefits or policies and procedures. And you're having to come up with things almost as they come up. You can't be proactive. It's always reactive at a startup, at least every startup I've worked in.
Mm-hmm. I'd say that's common. And I've only worked for one, and it was quite the experience, a horrific experience. To your point, they had no idea what really they were doing. They were becoming, right? It's so young and it's so early and you got to meet people where they are. But someone like me, coming from only very established organizations, like 100-plus-year-old organizations, multiples of those, that was a learning for me. And that's actually why I took the job. Because I was like, okay, let me go somewhere that doesn't know how to be, right? Like, let me use everything that I know and apply it now in this sort of really raw environment, And boy, I tried. That's all I have to say. I mean, I tried. I really gave it my all, but every day was quite the learning experience. And it was overwhelming for someone like me that only been in that structured environment, where people know how to be and things are predictable and consistent. And there's process and systems and all of that. And then to, go from that to literally the exact opposite, where people are making things up every day. And I mean, it is, no, literally, like it's fake.
Literally, you have to learn how to function in chaos. And being in HR is specifically for me, as I was a lot of the times the department of one for startups. So I was literally building the HR department from the ground up. And it can be fun because you get to kind of put your own spin on everything and it's also very overwhelming. As I always joke too, it truly is blood, sweat, and tears. Like, you're going to cry because you have 12-hour days, sometimes longer. You're staying up overnight to make sure things get done. And it is not for the faint of heart. That's for damn sure.
I'd say it's absolutely not. And some of what both you all touched on are things that it's so important for people considering working in a startup, but also startups hiring to be realistic of what it's like and the profile that's not just likely to want to work there, but also be successful there. Because I do think it's like a very specific skill set. And so a lot of people are in the experience like Leigh, like you're working, established organizations and it's kind of ho-hum. And you tell people like, I want something exciting. I want some sort of challenge. And so you look at working at a startup and a lot of people, because you see people can get really rich working at a startup. You start there, you have options or RSUs, which are restricted stock units. You have, whatever it looks like, your equity piece, which people sometimes get, sometimes not. And so it's really important to understand, are you going to get that? Also important to understand, what does that look like? Because often you don't realize how very much at the very bottom of the barrel you are, especially if you're, not employee 1 through 10, but you're like employee 173. salary and you think I'm going to get rich, but you don't realize that in the level of things, and often organizations won't share any of that documentation or information. And it's often lawyers that are behind that. But even just this aspect of like, I want growth and challenging those things. And you totally do until you get into it, especially if you're coming from like I said, like you're coming because you want this experience. And organizations, often startups, they're often looking because they're trying to do fundraising. So they want to show where they've been able to attract all this talent from. And they say talent, and they're thinking, I want someone with the biggest title from the biggest organizations they've worked with. That's all fine and good. Those people that have those big titles, all of a sudden they're working in that startup. And even if you have, even if you're a team of 3 or 5, you have to do the shit. And it is overwhelming for people that either one, you don't know how to do this stuff because you've never done it. It's been a while. You've moved into strategic HR and you never did the like spreadsheet type things, and you literally don't know how to do it. And that can be a problem and have a lot of emotions. Or the bigger issue that I think oftentimes in startups is people don't want to do it because you're like, I've done this work. I reported to the CEO of a huge company. Now I'm at the startup. I'm not fucking working on a spreadsheet. And so that's an issue that I think people have to recognize for themselves. So if you're thinking about working at a startup, is to think, don't take it as a guarantee that you're going to get rich, because the vast majority of people that go and work at startups do not strike it rich. And so it's important to realize that you might, but more often than not, you're going to be building experience that you may look back on as the craziest professional part of your life.
Literally.
Mm-hmm. I was really taken aback in my experience. I did not mind rolling up my sleeves because, especially being like HR, like there's so much admin there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was not my issue with it. Where I really struggled is that I had to continuously inform and influence simultaneously. And that was exhausting for me. So what I mean by that is I would literally have to educate and teach, explaining to the CEO what the functions do. Mm-hmm. And I'm doing like wide eyes off to the side. You can't see me, but I'm like WTFing over here.
Yes.
Here's what finance does. Like, not kidding.
Oh, and there's a difference between accounting and finance. BT dub.
By the way, okay. And here's what HR does. Oh, and here's what operations is responsible for. And no, I don't do operational workforce planning in HR. What the I don't know the machine's schedule. Anyways, I'm not bitter. I'm just saying. So there's like this constant informing along with influencing. And that is so exhausting because some of the things are just so obvious and some of them are legal matters, right? A great example is, hey, we do not have, this is a true story, EHS or EHS or health and safety or whatever you call it wherever you are. Hey, FYI, CEO, we do not have a safety function, and that is dangerous. And it's also required that we do. And in the states that we operate and some of the things that we're doing and working on, and it's not funny at all, but there were just accidents left and right, and people were so confused why they were happening. Like, why did someone drive a forklift straight into the wall, and on the other side of that wall was the break room? And thankfully, no one was on break, right? Why are there no water fountains in our facilities? Why are there no functioning fire alarm systems in one of our buildings? That's illegal. Why are there no lights in the parking lot? Why is there no badging system? All of these things. And you have to explain that. So there's this thing called safety. What the, you know what I mean? Like, you have to start there. And it's hard for me, just, I think, because of what my voice sounds like, to not sound condescending when I'm explaining something, And I really don't mean to. I've gotten that feedback. You're being condescending. And I'm like, shocked. Literally, I'm not. I'm just like trying to break it down. Like, I'm so sorry. It's just my voice, But anyway, sometimes I am, and you can fucking tell. But that was hard for me, is that constant informing plus influencing simultaneously. And it was common sense shit to the highest level people.
Do you ever wish that you had an HR legal bestie in your pocket? 650 is just that. Your trusted, always available ally for your employment law questions. minus the hefty price tag of a lawyer. Compliance may not be your favorite chore in HR, but it's important and it's hard. But 650 is here to make it easy. With 650, managing multi-state HR compliance is a breeze. Their tools help you to understand complex state laws and craft compliant documents effortlessly, but also keep everything up to date automatically. They have a comprehensive "What's the law in this state" library to a 50-state employee handbook builder. 650 turns compliance into convenience. So, HR pros juggling multi-state teams, simplify your compliance today. Visit 650.com/besties. That's SIXFIFTY.com/besties and discover how to stay ahead with 650's seamless solutions. You know, I love talking about Australia and the awesome things that have come out of there, like the Hemsworth brothers, Tim Tams, White Zinfandel, and the 2 amazing years I spent living there. But my new favorite Aussie export that's finally available in the US is the Koala sofa bed. Koala isn't your average sofa bed. It's gorgeous, and it's seriously comfortable because it uses Koala's famous mattress technology inside, so there's no uncomfortable metal frame poking you. Plus, it's got stunning color options inspired by the Aussie outback. Goodbye, sad beige. Hello, Instagram-worthy style. I like things simple, and Koala delivers tool-free assembly. No Allen wrenches, no stress. It fits perfectly in small spaces, comes in 3 convenient sizes, and it's eco-friendly too. Koala is a great company. It's B Corp certified and has donated over $6.5 million to environmental causes. With free shipping, free returns, and a 120-night risk-free trial, it's a no-brainer. Upgrade your space with the most stylish, customizable, and elevated sofa bed available. To get $100 off your new sofa, plus fast shipping, go to us.koala.com/HRBesties. That's us.koala.com/HRBesties to get $100 off your new sofa. Koala. Comfy, easy, sustainable.
At least for me, in an HR role, usually we see it and we automatically know that it has to be fixed. Like I remember one time there were toilets installed without toilet seats.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, what? Me having to order toilet seats.
Oh my God. What, off of Amazon or what?
Yeah, Home Depot. You had to buy like the industrial ones. But like,
Did you install that shit? Did you install that shit too? You did, didn't you?
no, I did not.
Okay.
I did not do that. But no one thought that we would need. The plant manager was like, well, I mean, you can still use it.
Gee whiz.
Sir, I'm a woman. I do not want to put my bare ass cheeks on a cold porcelain.
On a rim.
Yeah, no, thank you. But
A porcelain rim.
like, and I think that's where HR unfortunately takes up a lot of the slack, right? We pick it up because we see those very common, like the red flag things, like the safety issues, or, and we're like, hey, wait, we got to do something about this, or we need a policy for this, and we're creating things on the fly. And that's where I think it's very hard in a startup is you really are constantly reacting instead of it's hard to be proactive because you're always trying to fix something, even if it's not, like ordering toilet seats, even if it's not necessarily in your JD, But it's also like the cool thing about it is you have a lot of autonomy, right? You get to kind of create. Like I've been able to create my actual department and I got to hire the people on my team and I got to own my function and do things, that fit our environment at the time. But it was a lot of spreadsheets too.
Yeah.
Manual tracking of shit.
Manual of me.
Because you physically don't have the tools. And then you're having to demo tools and systems and, find out which ones are most cost effective. I think another thing that gets left out about startups is day one, when that company was created, there was an idea of mind of what they wanted to do. It could have been, we're going to produce this thing. And so they set up the company of everything that they thought that they would require for this. But as they started building this plane and it started, it took off and it's flying, they realized, oh, we actually don't need this whole department of 10 people that we hired. So there's a lot of rifts that occur and a lot of layoffs. And that's really hard for HR because you probably hired them. You probably created the job descriptions, based off of what you thought the model was. And now you're on the back end and you're like, fuck me. I don't, none of that actually works anymore.
I think it's absolutely true. And that can be really gutting because to the point you often know people. It is some of the good aspects of startups, because some people are like, are you just like, what?
Yeah, what?
There are some good things.
There are at times if you can work and get equity, it can be fantastic. And I know people that seem to have I don't know what the Midas touch is in the startup world, but working successively. And so you get to know people, including across functions. And so it is one of those places that in HR, it can be really hard because there's some people that, including maybe the founders, that will look at you as you're costing me money, you're back office. And so it's especially important to do the inform aspect of these are the things that we can do to help to retain the people that you've worked so hard to recruit or had me work so hard to recruit. And so you can do some of that informing, but also in addition to that autonomy, which people that really if you think to yourself, which I do think it's important to think, what do I like doing? What do I not mind doing? What am I okay doing? And if you're okay doing this range of things, it can be a great place. Also, what is my lifestyle support? Because those founders, I don't like it when people disparage a 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 or whatever you want to say generally. Oh, this isn't a 9 to 5, as if something's wrong with that. I actually think there's a lot right with that. And I've mentioned before, experienced that and it changed my life. But sometimes you might be in, whether it's a season of life or just your work life, whatever, that you don't mind working your ass off and are committed and knowing it's a risk of whether it's going to pay off or not, but you're willing to put that time in. But it's really important to recognize that, because if you're going into it and you're not realizing your dinners are going to get interrupted, your weekends, it's important to know that going in, but also all these people you're working with really closely, it's amazing. And because if you look often, when someone leaves a startup, often they are taking people with them. And so if you work with people and you have that relationship, then often you can end up with this whole network that kind of carries you through your career, because people go all sorts of places and all of the names of every startup, it's it's hard to pronounce them or look them up because it's the I turns into a Y. There's lots of, X. What
very incestuous.
Yeah, it's incestuous. All the spellings of them are
Velocital. Velocity. Yeah.
Yeah. The original was taken, long ago by trademark law and domains. And so all of a sudden they're okay, well,
add a Y.
Let's take a couple vowels out.
Yeah, exactly.
Add a Y and take the other vowels out. How does that change things? It sure does. So you're always spelling it on sales calls, which is frustrating in a startup. But there are some benefits as well. I think the point of it is just important to really recognize what it looks like truly when you're what that experience is like. And for you, what am I going to be successful at here? Or what am I going to start and be what the F?
Yeah. Yeah, there definitely are some benefits. You all named, quite a few of them. For me, what I did enjoy was that it was not bureaucratic.
Yeah.
At all. So I am not a fan of being micromanaged. So I like to go ideate, innovate, and, solve problems and just go about my business. And you can do that in a startup because everyone's so damn busy. No one has time to micromanage. You definitely ask forgiveness as opposed to asking permission. There's no system to ask permission in anyway.
Literally.
So people just expect to, hey, if they expect you to, if you see an issue, you just go fix it, whether it's even in your function or not, right? But it does give you an opportunity to problem solve and be creative, which is fun, be innovative. And I truly, truly enjoyed that aspect, of the startup life. So if you aren't getting that kind of in your current role and you want to be creative and something to think about is changing, the business type that you're in there, perhaps a startup fits I'm good though. I can't see myself ever going back to a startup. I'm going to be honest with you all. It was a little too lawless for me. Just a little bit.
Look at Jamie. Here she goes. Here she goes.
Yeah, I'm like, God, I'll be honest. I did step away from startups for a minute, and it was like a large corporate hospital system. And I was bored out of my fucking mind because everything is there. I couldn't create anything. I just kind of typed my little emails, and I'm like, I felt like I had
Was too in control.
Yeah, exactly. Y'all know me. I am a sucker. So if it was the right thing, I might.
I love it.
For me, it's that passionate founder.
Yeah.
That, every founder's different, right? And some startups are still founder led, some aren't, whatever. You know what I mean? It's all different scenarios. But to the previous points there, they have a vision, and some of them may want to stick to it,
And it's funny sometimes looking at the structure, like see what that founder's role is, because sometimes the founder's still the CEO. And again, that, what is your vision? How's it translate? Sometimes the founder moves into like a chairman role or an advisor role, like look and see and just getting a sense, but then get a sense, what does that mean? Because does that mean there's actually like a CEO but really like another CEO, that title isn't CEO anymore, and getting a sense of that. And if you're working in a startup now, hopefully it feels validating by hearing some of this. I've worked directly in startups, but I also work with a lot of startups with manager training. And it's helpful because I do have this manager training course, but in these toolkits I customize to run training sessions. Some of the things I love putting in there for startups are things like that, of like, how do we drive innovation without driving people out the door, for example, and have those and help managers have those conversations. And those can be really needed. And I love talking to people that are in the HR people role. Often they have a team of like 1 to 5, and it's a very shared experience. And so there's some great industry network startup support groups, or not support group.
There are, I'm sure.
Maybe they are, but like networking type groups that can also be helpful for you if you're in a people role, or even if you're outside of that. I do think it's helpful to recognize startups that can be wild. And so it can be great to find networking and support in those resources groups. I'm a golfer, and if you're a golfer, you likely know PXG. PXG has a passion to make the best golf clubs, and they have amazing apparel. I've always appreciated how PXG brings the same level of performance and precision to their apparel that they do their clubs, and the Spring-Summer 2025 collection totally delivers. I received a black golf shirt that I'm obsessed with. It's cute and super forgiving, which I love, and it goes with everything. Shorts, skirts, joggers, culottes, is that still a thing? You name it. And the best part? The fabric. It's breathable and cool, so I'm not burning up out there on the course, especially playing in Atlanta in the summer. And it's also one of those pieces that I can wear beyond golf. Like, don't let men be the only ones wearing golf shirts on Fridays. It's stylish enough for errands or even a casual coffee meeting. PXG really nailed the mix of comfort, versatility, and polish in this collection. I highly recommend. Elevate your style game on and off the course with PXG Apparel's Spring-Summer 2025 collection. Head over to pxgapparel.com/HRBesties to save 10% on your order. That's pxgapparel.com/HRBesties to save 10%. pxgapparel.com/HRBesties.
So my youngest is 7, and I see the way he looks at my phone. Look, parents out there, I know you can relate. Our kids want the thing that we have in our hand all day, and I'm always throwing out excuses why he can't just have a phone yet. And it's not that I hate phones or I think that he couldn't benefit from one. Shoot, even I could benefit from him having one. But it's just the risk of all the unfiltered access. So with Gab, you can finally get a phone without all that risk. Gab is the leader in safe phones and watches for kids, teens, and tweens. With no social media apps, no internet browser, and GPS tracking, Gab devices are specifically built to keep kids and teens safely connected. Gab phones also have all the features that kids actually want, like there's a Gab music app that lets kids stream clean music. And for the older kids, there's a Gab Phone 4 Pro with hundreds of screened third-party apps that can be installed when parents say so. And kids get unlimited text and talk with Gab Messenger, which is the first messaging and video calling app designed with kids' safety as a top priority. So my youngest Bestie lives right next door, and he also just got a Gab watch. So I love to watch them stay connected when they can't be together and talk on their little watches. It's the cutest thing. I can't recommend Gab enough. It's the most responsible way that I've found for parents and kids to embrace technology together. Protecting our kids has never been easier. For the best deal, sign up for Gab today, no contract required, at gab.com/HRBesties. That's Gab, GABB.com/HRBesties. Gab.com/HRBesties. Terms and conditions apply.
See, I love that segue into closing the session out, perhaps with how do we as leaders, HR professionals, business professionals, employees of startups, everyone kind of has a hand in this. How do we shape a healthier startup culture?
I think that you have to start with the culture in general, if you can. I have seen too many leaders just want to gun it, and they want to build the product or do the thing. But you really have to build the culture early on, because those people are going to be working their asses off for you and you creating the product or the service or whatever. So if you have a strong culture behind you, I think you're able to do all the things that you want to do later on.
And I think it's a real focus on bringing in those right people. And I think, Ashley, you said it earlier, where it's like, hey, you have got to be so honest with people that you're recruiting, like what the reality is of the place. Now, what I experience is that when I was in recruitment for that startup position that I went into, see, they didn't even know that what they were experiencing was, my opinion, abnormal, traumatic, because that was all a lot of them knew. You know what I mean? And so, but I do think it's really important to be careful who you hire, be honest when you're hiring, and protect that culture. Jamie, that's a really good point.
I think the one thing I'd say is that experience. The common places that I've seen startups fall on the employer side is often those leaders, including the most senior leader, maybe the founder. They don't realize how much they're trying to control people and how that can come off as judgy. And so the ways I'd phrase that are, in addition to everything we kind of talked about, hiring and being honest, your people that work there, are they in meetings? Do they feel like they can speak up without being put down? Because frequently you hear that, like, founder criticizes an idea vocally, and that person and everybody else on the call is never going to speak up again. And so just, are you creating that type of environment where people are able to contribute and grow? Because that's one of the benefits of a startup. And that's how you can really maximize by having those. It doesn't mean everyone's idea is going to get adopted, but that probably is, in addition to time off and the emphasis that people actually do need to be able to recharge, because otherwise they will burn out spectacularly. That's a pretty common one with startups. But for me, I think that one real question of, do people, including all levels of the organizational ladder, feel like they can speak up without negative judgment? And that's a differentiator that I think more startups need to really flip and think about that.
Yeah. I mean, for me, one of the first things I did when I went into the startup that I'm referencing was I brought in comms. Like, I really pushed to invest in communication because it just was not happening. And especially in such a ever-changing, volatile, chaotic environment that, especially an early startup, right, can be, people need information almost on the daily, because everyone's running in circles and, and you want to make sure that people are, going all in the same direction. There's velocity, there's speed with a direction as opposed to just speed, and so you have to be able to communicate those things. And when no one is responsible for communications, simple, even emails, all hands, whatever the case may be. Wow. I mean, it's just a flurry of activity. Yeah. It's just a beehive, and people are stepping all over each other. There's work in triplicate, there's lots of frustrations, and gossip gets weaponized. So back to the focus on the culture that Jamie was emphasizing, comms really helps quell some of that fear and worry and frustration and all of this, but communications are always important, but I think more so in, fast changing environments like that. Anything else on startups, or should we shift to some questions and comments? Questions and comments? Shift. Well, we'll take startups offline. Discuss it later. I tried.
We will. Well done. I mean, Leigh, you're really crushing that today. I have a comment. And this is, sometimes I get questions because I'll make videos, those that have seen at Manager Methods videos. I do conversations with like Luke, this fictional boss who's actually the CEO of a startup tech company. He calls it a startup. It's been around for a while. And this is where my playwriting comes in. If I'd love to have the whole story. And so Luke is CEO of a company called Quaint Tech, which of course is spelled KWANTAINTTECH because all the reasons I said before, but they make AI enabled blankets. It was tech enabled blankets, but of course we've changed with the times.
Well,
so it's AI enabled blankets. And so I have a whole website of quainttech.com is a real website that I created because I love a good domain. And so that, in addition to the backstory of Luke, that's the organization we're working with. And so sometimes I like to joke and say, we're just making AI enabled blankets. It's not life and death here, Luke. So
Speaking of AI, have y'all noticed that all of the AI companies logos look like buttholes?
wait, I saw this the other day and I cannot unsee that.
You can't unsee it, can you?
Well, don't search for that on your work email, besties, please.
Really?
Yes.
Now I'm going to search AI buttholes. Like cat buttholes.
All the logos are like circles and they look like buttholes. Like circles and yeah. Look at ChatGPT's.
And I don't want to look at that now. Now I go to ChatGPT.
Now I have to pull it up.
We'll take that offline.
Oh, look at that. I really like that. It does look like it looks like an infinity butthole or something.
But when you put them all together, I'm telling you.
I think this is what I saw. But again, don't look at this on your work email, peeps. We don't need...
I'll post it on HR Bestie stories.
Yeah, perfect.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, definitely take that offline. Oh my goodness. Not a question, but just a quick comment from me. And it's kind of a quick story. Startup life. I think one of the funniest things that I saw, and I've got a lot of stories. I'll have to share some more here. There was a wall in the corporate headquarters that was dedicated to Employee of the Year. And every year since the beginning of the startup, the person that was in that framed picture was the CEO.
That makes me want to throat punch him. I want to be violent. The whole purpose of that is to not have the CEO.
Yeah.
How many people took pictures of that to text it to people?
I have it.
Wait, wasn't 1 month his dog too?
Yeah. I was like, yeah, his dog. And
she did a video years and years ago. And I remember being so irrationally angry at the CEO.
That tells you a lot about some startups.
A picture does say 1,000 gazillion words on that front.
Mm-hmm. Narcissists, man, you gotta love them.
We've gotten some good anonymous ones over the time, and they do seem to come from startups. And so, so if you want to drop those, you can go to hrbesties.com and drop those anonymously. You don't have to do your name. We don't know how to track IP addresses, so all set. But please share them. Leigh, that is something.
Yeah. Share your startup stories. That's always fun, right? And we'll share them here, or in our stories. That'll be good. Oh, startup life. If you're in one, hang in there. Bye, besties.